What's it like to live on Point Loma? Point Loma is a peninsula and it's a part of San Diego that is just west of downtown San Diego. And we're going to be talking about the features, the history, and more. Point Loma has some amazing history to it. It just is mesmerizing. So Point Loma was discovered around the mid-1500s by Portuguese Juan Rodriguez Cabrillo. And before that, there was probably a Kumeyaay Indian tribe was here some of the time looking for mussels and clams and things like that, but they really weren't hanging around here a whole lot except for food. So when Juan Cabrillo stopped by, he discovered it, and he was coming up from Mexico to look at the west coast. And then 200 years later, there were actually settlers from that discovery. So Juan Rodriguez Cabrillo liked Point Loma a lot because he thought it was a good enclosed port. So he really marked that in his memory as a place to settle. And now there is a national monument to Cabrillo right here. In fact, that's where I am right now. It's a fantastic place to visit with sweeping views all over the place. You will not want to miss it. And an old lighthouse as well. The permanent settlement for Point Loma took place in about 1769. That's when the Portuguese people and others came to live here for good. Now, Cabrillo National Monument, where I am right now, has a few famous things. It still is a place where some of the Navy is stationed up here. But at one time around World War II, it was actually, there was a lot of people, a lot of artillery that was stored up here, and it was a lookout point also. There's a beautiful national cemetery that's here. It's just breathtaking. And in fact, if you've seen the latest Top Gun, you'll notice one of the scenes when they're at the funeral for the Val Kilmer character. It's in this national cemetery. Now, there are about 4,400 acres on Point Loma, and the population is probably close to 50,000. I think the last census was in 2010. It was about 48,000 then. Here are some of the neighborhoods of Point Loma. There's Sunset Cliffs, which is on the west side, overlooking the ocean. It's just beautiful. It blends into Ocean Beach. La Playa, it's where the military ships, way back then, like when Cabrillo and his people, well, Cabrillo wasn't alive right at the time, but when they settled here, the military ships anchored at La Playa hundreds of years ago. So above La Playa is the wooded area of Point Loma. It's called the wooded area, actually. And Roseville is where a lot of the fishermen settled when they first came out. It was called Tunaville because they were tuna fishermen. Now there's also a Midway neighborhood here in Point Loma. And what's so fascinating about this is you've heard of Charles Lindbergh. There was actually a dirt landing strip in the Midway part of Point Loma, and he actually practiced landing in the Midway neighborhood area before there were any houses. He flew the Spirit of St. Louis right at the time. The average list price in Point Loma is around $2.439 million. The median is around 2.2. And now for attached, like a townhome or a condo, the average is about 1.15. The median is about 1.047. I'm going to mention another kind of neat historical part of Point Loma as well. So I just told you about some of the neighborhoods. A great place to live. Have you heard of Ballast Point at the end of the peninsula? This is called that because a long time ago, it was a practice of the ships to discard their ballast when arriving in the bay. Then they would pick up their ballast again, or take it on anyway, when they would leave the bay. So that's why it's called Ballast Point. And in fact, there's a famous beer named after Ballast Point. Next, we're gonna go take a look at Liberty Station because it's such a huge part. Just one of my favorite parts of this Point Loma area. We're gonna take a look at it. It was an old Navy base that was started in the 20s and then just was active all the way up till 1997. Beautiful Spanish style buildings, and now it's kind of commercialized. It's not completely changed over, but really it pretty much is. Restaurants, some shops, an art center. We're gonna go take a look. So here we are right now at Liberty Station. We're gonna take a look, just a little look around the place. You could spend a few hours here actually. Stone Brewery is here, and several other restaurants as well. The Lot is here. It's a great place to go watch a movie and have a nice glass of wine while you're watching the movie. There's a place here called the Liberty Market, and there's just a big variety of kinds of food that you can get there. So thanks a lot for watching this video. If you have any questions, please give me a call. If you want to know more about Point Loma or any place else, let me know. We'd love to help you.